Wolfenstein: The New Order is one of my favorite first-person shooters ever made. With the 8th generation of consoles kicking into gear, 2014 was a year full of bangers, along with some well-documented failures and disappointments. However, Wolfenstein is the one game from that year that stands out to me for many reasons. At a time when I did not have the disposable income to buy video games as I do now, I was very frugal when it came to the games I wanted to get. As a result, I mostly spent my adolescence playing licensed games or whatever my dad got on his Xbox. As I got older, the 8th generation was a time for experimenting with games I was either too young to play when they released or had little to no knowledge of. This soft reboot of the Wolfenstein franchise was the catalyst for this change and has been remembered fondly by me since its release. With the game's 10th anniversary being a few days ago, I figured this would be the best time to revisit Wolfenstein. However, as you can tell by the thumbnail, things are going to be a little different for this video. Wolfenstein was one of the few games I had within those first months of owning a PS4, so I did almost everything the game had to offer at the time. If I remember correctly, this is the first game where I went out of my way to find all the collectibles to get as much out of Wolfenstein as I could. Most of the trophy list was completed in 2014, and I came back to platinum this game about a year ago. When I came up with the idea for this video, I bought a cheap PS3 copy and figured I would give it a shot. While it performed well for the most part, this wasn't the ideal way I wanted to play this game. Aside from the downgraded graphics, texture pop-in, and stuttering cutscenes, which all was to be expected, the load times pretty much killed it for me. While there is an exploit, I wanted to play this game fully on the hardest difficulty, which is Uber. Knowing that I was going to die a lot, I was not in the mood to sit on the loading screen for upwards of 30 seconds at a time. This is when I remembered Wolfenstein was on Game Pass, so after much internal debate, I decided to switch sides and become an achievement hunter. At least for this video. With all this in mind, let's jump into Wolfenstein: The New Order and get that sweet 1000 gamer score.
I hear children. A dog. And I see someone. I think I see someone.
We take control of William B.J. Blazkowicz in 1946. On a plane heading for Germany, we meet the eccentric Fergus Reed before this somewhat calm ride takes a turn when we're under fire. Doing what I can to keep the plane afloat, I take control of a turret, blasting away at incoming fighter planes, unlocking my first achievement of the game. We hop onto another plane and meet Wyatt, a young kid who is understandably a nervous wreck. The plane ends up crashing near the shore of Death's Head's compound, making the situation even worse. I save my crew from these giant robot dogs and traverse the beachfront, killing Nazis along the way. This is when I am introduced to the perk system, which is going to be a major focus when it comes to the achievements. Every gameplay aspect, from stealth to demolition, has abilities we can unlock by completing specific tasks. The beauty of this system is that these perks feed into one another, so after unlocking an ability from one perk, this opens up the tree some more, allowing me to use new abilities to get even more perks. Every chance I had, I did my best to unlock these, and this started when I performed a stealth kill on a commander. Before this, I was working on my first tactical perk, where I had to get 3 headshot kills with a rifle and 1 with a pistol. I knocked out the first requirement pretty quickly, so I just needed the pistol headshot, which I did after killing the commander. Oh, yeah, some of these achievements are going to be a little delayed for whatever reason. After learning about the dual wield mechanic, I killed 10 enemies this way, giving me my first assault perk. It wasn't long after this when I suffered my first death, but not at the hands of the enemy. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. Inside the bunker, I got my hands on a few collectibles, with the first one being an Enigma code, followed by a gold medal, and a letter. All of these are essential for a handful of achievements, so I always had a couple of guides up to make sure I didn't miss a thing. There are a few more that are not tied to achievements, but I'll get to them when I come across them. Making my way up, I killed 2 enemies with a grenade explosion for my first demolition perk. After taking down this giant robot, I killed 3 enemies while sprint sliding, something that proved to be a little difficult on Uber difficulty. I catch up with the crew and we come up with a plan to get inside Death's Head's compound by scaling the castle walls. I sneak my way to the courtyard where I find a turret and use it to gun down 20 enemies. We get through some wreckage when the floor beneath us collapses. Waking up to a gruesome lab experiment, we look for a way out when we come face to face with Death's Head. This first encounter shows just how frightening he is, as he makes me choose one of my own men for him to dissect. While this major decision doesn't affect the overall story, there are some small differences depending on who you choose. From what I remember, Wyatt does have a deeper story, but I ended up going with Fergus. The rest of us escape, but it's not entirely successful when BJ gets a piece of metal lodged in his head, kicking off the story for Wolfenstein: The New Order. We wake up in an asylum where BJ watches years fly by in a matter of seconds. The only thing that has remained consistent during this time is the dominant Nazi presence and Anya's family. This all changes one day when Nazis shut the place down and kill the patients as well as Anya's parents. BJ is next until he musters up the strength to kill this Nazi scum like the old days. Taking the stealthy route through this destroyed facility, I completed a couple of perks. One for performing 5 normal stealth kills, and another for performing 5 stealth kills on commanders.
Nazis shooting folks who can't defend themselves.
Getting my hands on some better weapons, I hotwire a panel that has a health upgrade inside, 2 major differences since I chose to save Fergus. Oh, and this happened. Video games are a funny thing, man. Outside the asylum, I got some more dual-wielding action in, killing 3 enemies in a row without releasing the trigger. And after an unsurprising death, I landed my 40th headshot for another perk. I found Anya and we got far away from this place. She takes us to her grandparents' farm where we find a Nazi stowed away in the trunk. BJ also learns what has happened in the 14 years that have passed.
It's 1960.
I have to find a way to contact the U.S. military. I gotta find my unit, let them know I'm alive and ready for duty.
There's no more war.
It's over. No more military. No.
The war ain't over. Look at all these Nazis walking around.
They won.
In the basement, we find the location of the resistance fighters with a little interrogation. Anya's grandparents take us to a checkpoint that is crawling with Nazis. I was pretty stealthy in the beginning, landing my 5th stealth kill with a silenced pistol. However, it didn't take too long for my cover to be blown, where many fights led to a final confrontation with a couple of guard robots. It was pretty difficult in the beginning, but I prepared for this by overcharging my health to 200, unlocking yet another perk. We made it onto the train when I was stopped by Frau Engel and her lapdog, Booby. I played her little card game and returned to the cabin for some hot coffee with Anya.
Are you comfortable sharing?
Heading to Eisenwald prison, I retrieved the laser cutter, which was going to come in handy during future levels. With only my knife at my side, I stealth kill some guards in embarrassing ways before finding a familiar face. With Fergus along for the ride and a more upgraded arsenal, we fight our way out of this prison. This part of the mission is also where I started to feel that Uber difficulty. I was constantly met with a flurry of bullets in tight hallways and open courtyards, resulting in countless deaths. It took a few tries to get through, but after a handful of firefights, we reunited with Anya. Fergus takes us to an underground hideout that is home to a cast of memorable characters. Caroline is one of them, and she is looking for a folder, giving me a good opportunity to look around HQ. These chapters are a nice change of pace, allowing me to learn more about these characters, find other collectibles, and, since I saved Fergus, a place to sleep, rewarding me with a health upgrade. If you really take the time to look around, you can also play through some levels from the original Wolfenstein game, which was a nice throwback. I get the file and Caroline briefs me on the next assignment. Tasked with stealing prototypes of a silent helicopter, I make my way to the London Nautica research facility with Bobby Brown. He sacrifices himself, putting a stop to the Nazis' research and giving me a way inside. Getting past all this rubble, I fought plenty of Nazis, unlocking a perk after getting my 10th kill with a grenade. After some tough fights, I find a room full of artifacts along with files for something called .ishud.
See if you can find any references to .ishud.
Will do. Be careful out there.
I like her, Blazkowicz.
I like her too, Caroline. I get my hands on the laser craftwork, which will prove to be a powerful upgrade over this teeny weeny laser cutter. I reached the hangar where another challenging fight was waiting for me. It took me a few tries, but I did complete a couple of perks in the meantime. The first came after killing a commander with a grenade, and another for killing my 5th enemy with throwing knives. Taking out a few Nazis, along with a heavy robot, we secure the hangar and get these helicopters back to HQ. Anya takes charge of the next mission, but needs a piece of moldy concrete and a file containing a list of .ishud members. With everything she needs, the next mission takes me to a labor camp to find Set Roth, one of the only living members of .ishud. Inside, I was chosen to be one of the workers in the camp, but I created a distraction that puts me in the courtyard where I find Set. He sends me to disable the security systems, which didn't start out so smoothly. I almost got incinerated, but managed to escape and complete the 8th stealth perk. For this, I had to stealth kill 5 attack dogs and 50 soldiers. I only needed one more of each at this point, and both of them were in the same room, so I was able to knock this one out. Something new during this level is the introduction of side objectives. There's one for finding a husband some medicine, and another requiring me to kill a guard called the Knife. These are necessary for collecting an Enigma code and gold dagger, but they didn't take me off the beaten path. They were within the same area as the main objective, so I took care of these to earn their respective rewards. With the security equipment disabled, I looked for a battery that controls one of the robots. Making my way stealthily through the control building, I completed one of the more challenging perks, which was performing 5 stealth kills while my health was overcharged. It wasn't necessarily difficult, I just had to be quick and careful. I found the battery, but the shock knocked me out and I woke up tied to a stake. With the battery still in hand, I gave it to Set, who turned the robot that was about to kill us into our salvation. With it now in our control, I used it to kill everything that stands in our way. I wished I could have felt OP here, but this final section proved otherwise. I was also using remote play here, which made the situation even worse. Yeah, the lag was pretty bad. With Set and a few other prisoners with us, we return to HQ where he tells us more about this secret society he's a part of. He needs our help to find one of their safe spots, but needs a U-boat to get there. There's a tunnel glider which will prove useful, but Set needs welding tools to fix it up. This chapter is both long and a bit weird. During a peaceful slumber, Tekla is just sitting there, watching us before babbling on about why she doesn't sleep.
The brain is no longer running its electrochemical consciousness generating process. Hence consciousness is lost. You lose consciousness. Pay attention now. At this point in time, your consciousness, all that is...
I was just trying to get a health upgrade, man. At least it results in a nice moment between the two. There's another side objective here with the wife I helped during the last mission. I retrieved her wedding ring, which gave me my 25th gold item. I proceeded to make my way further underground to retrieve this welder when I came across a couple of super soldiers. This was definitely one of the more interesting HQ missions, but with the welder collected and another not so discreet spicy session between BJ and Anya, I take the tunnel glider for a ride through this underwater maze. It led me to a train station where I ran into one of the harder sections in the game. I fought plenty of enemies, which wasn't too bad in the beginning, but when I had to fight 2 super soldiers at the same time, it was a bit of a headache. The bright side to all of this is that I was able to work on a few perks while unlocking one for killing 15 enemies from behind cover with a pistol. I spent roughly 30 minutes here, but once I took down the super soldiers along with the remaining enemies, the train was ours. I stow away inside one of the torpedoes.
Come on, man. I'll fuck the pig, you just hold the ass.
Giving me direct access to the U-boat. With the shrapnel upgrade applied to my shotgun, I made quick work of the Nazis occupying the ship and completed a tactical perk for getting 10 ricochet kills with the shotgun's shrapnel mod. With the ship in my possession, we head down into the Atlantic Ocean where we follow Set to an underwater stash. Gathering some advanced tech that will give us the edge, we get word on our next mission. To get our hands on some nuclear decryption keys, I need to find the chief scientist who is on a train coming from the African front. We find it and activate a weapon that completely demolishes the bridge.
Have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, have you, BJ?
Through the destruction, I head to the dangling train car on the other side. This was, without a doubt, one of the hardest missions in the game for me, with a lot of tough enemies that could gun me down instantly. Death was a constant occurrence, but I did knock out a couple of perks. During one of the earlier sections, I used a super soldier's machine gun to kill 5 enemies within 10 seconds. It took a couple of tries, but that was nothing compared to the onslaught I faced a few minutes later. This bridge was a nightmare to get through, with super soldiers and dozens of enemies trying to gun me down. This is also when I finished another perk. Tactical perk 8 required me to kill 100 enemies with the assault rifle, 50 enemies with the handgun, and 25 with a marksman rifle. Assault rifle and handgun kills came easy since I had those weapons with me for most missions, but only had access to the marksman rifle a few missions prior. After getting my 25th kill with the marksman rifle, I spent the next 30 minutes replaying this section. Even when I was doing pretty good, enemies were just coming at me non-stop. I didn't see an end to this, so I just made a full sprint to the other end of the bridge, which surprisingly worked in my favor. Now that that nightmare was over, I reached the train car and found the chief scientist. I stole his credentials and took a trip to the lunar base to find some decryption keys. After the previous mission, this one was a nice breather. It wasn't as tense, and this futuristic base had possibly one of the best set pieces in the entire game. Like BJ says,
I'm on the motherfucking moon.
The mouse on this one.
this is a very stealth-based mission, but when I needed to get loud, I had my hands on one of the better alternate weapons in the form of the energy marksman rifle. After a quick walk on the surface of the moon, I reached the command module where I received the best upgrade from my LKW. With it fully loaded, I emptied the gun without missing, which was made easy with the targeting scope. Despite blowing my cover, I still tried my best to sneak around, and I killed my 20th enemy with a throwing knife. I started putting the LKW to work, which is when I finished all the requirements for the 8th perk in the assault tree. For this, I had to get 100 dual wield kills and 25 LKW kills. I finished the first requirement during the last mission, so with all the upgrades made to the LKW, this is when I got my 25th kill. A few seconds later, I used it to get 5 ricochet kills. And made my way back to Earth, crash landing in the London Nautica. I find my way to the ground where I wrapped up a few more perks. At this point, I didn't have too much left, so I locked in and tried to complete as many as I could. The first one came after killing my 80th enemy with the assault rifle from cover. This opened up the next perk, which was performing 3 consecutive kills with the AR marksman without leaving the scope view. This mission concludes with a boss fight against the London Monitor, and it was pretty straightforward as I just needed to shoot its weak spots. However, when I had to shoot its engine from below, that's when it became challenging. Aside from the turrets that can shred through my health, it also has this powerful burst attack that can kill me instantly if I'm being careless. It took a couple of tries to take down this towering monstrosity, and it was a race to HQ where Engel and her forces discovered the crew. I defend Max Haas as he pulls an injured Klaus from the car, giving me a chance to land my 50th kill with a grenade or rocket for the 8th demolition perk. We find the place in ruins, and it's a race to rescue whoever we can. This should have been an awesome moment, but I kept dying, ruining any cinematic appeal this moment was supposed to conjure. However, in this chaos, I found the last letter I needed to collect. I also find Tekla, who expresses her gratitude towards us before sacrificing herself to ensure the rest of our survival. I fight my way to the hangar where Caroline, Fergus, Max, and I escape. On a ship heading for Death's Head's compound, I get some encouraging words from the crew.
Be safe out there.
Don't fuck this up, you magnificent cunt.
Exhaust.
And blow a hole inside, giving me a way in. This final chapter did not hold back. I spent roughly an hour and a half gunning down Nazis over and over and over again in some pretty brutal sections. There were a couple of times where I just had to do my best to get past the overwhelming amount of firepower to reach the next checkpoint. This particular section sucked, as every enemy type I fought in the game is in this one room. Shotguns, rocket launchers, super soldiers, guard robots. Everything was out to get me, and being in the wrong position could easily result in a quick death. It got to the point where I just had to do my best to thin out the grunts and defeat this super soldier before finally making my way out. But the toughest part was yet to come. I did find the final Enigma code before coming face to face with Engel's lapdog. His tricks didn't work on me though, and despite being in a weak state, I found the rest of my crew. I get them out and prepare for the final confrontation against Death's Head. Remembering the gruesome act he did to Wyatt in Chapter 1, his brain is put into this robot we're forced to fight. Even though this mechanical beast is set on killing us, it's still Wyatt in there, and we're able to put an end to this good soldier's suffering. This bought Death's Head enough time to make his grand entrance in a mech. The first phase wasn't too bad, as I only had to destroy a couple of Zeppelins, providing his shields. In the heat of the moment, I even found my final gold collectible for the game. Now it's time for the final phase, and let me tell you, it was tough as hell. I only had my LKW going in, which did some decent damage with the targeting scope, but I was going to need more than that to take him down. Weapons and health were scattered everywhere, so it was a mad dash to get what I could while contending with his powerful lasers, along with fire that quickly engulfed this small room. It was a hard fight, and I was barely scraping by when I got him down, but after who knows how many attempts, I confronted Death's Head one last time. But he had a little surprise in store for us. Everyone escapes, and BJ gives the all clear to fire a nuclear weapon on Death's Head's compound, ending the story for Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Do you read? Am I clear to fire?
You're clear.
With this playthrough coming to an end, since I played it all the way on Uber, all of the difficulty achievements stacked, so I got 3 for finishing the game on any difficulty, I Am Death Incarnate, and Uber. Now it's time to clean up the rest of these achievements, which didn't take too long. I only had to replay a couple of chapters for certain things, but before that, I solved the 4 Enigma puzzles. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to solving these. There is a system to it that I kind of picked up on, but I just looked up the solutions for each of them. As you can see, these codes unlock different game modes, giving Wolfenstein more replay value with a twist. I'll be honest though, aside from the 999 mode, none of these sound fun to me, especially after the playthrough I just went through. But they sound like fun additions for those who want more challenge. Jumping back into Chapter 1, the last set of perks I needed to complete came from the demolition tree. The first thing I worked on was getting 5 explosive kills by shooting enemies so they could drop their grenades. This was tricky at times because I had to get the timing right for the grenades to drop and explode. There was a good spot early in Chapter 1 where I was able to get this done. This opened the next perk where I had to kill 5 enemies by throwing back grenades. Luckily, I could throw my own grenades back at enemies for this to count, but I had to be pretty quick. For the next 2 achievements, I don't know if OBS or my capture card crapped out, but this was the image the video captured for the next 20 minutes. The achievements I got during this came from saving Wyatt this time around and killing 5 mechanical enemies with a grenade. I caught this goof before getting the final achievement, which was also the last trophy I needed to platinum Wolfenstein last year. For Demolition Perk 5, I had to get 5 dual-wielded rocket kills within 10 seconds. Any mission with assault rifles will work, so when I found a good group of enemies, I knocked this out, giving me the final achievement for Wolfenstein. After dying 156 times and getting 50 achievements across 13 hours, Wolfenstein: The New Order has been 100% completed, and I enjoyed it every step of the way. Like I said in the beginning, this is one of my favorite first-person shooters ever made, and this playthrough further reinforced that. While the story can appear simple on the surface, the writing and characters really elevate what could have been a very straightforward narrative. The gameplay is just as strong, with a variety of weapons and methods to gruesomely kill plenty of Nazis with. While some systems, like manually picking up ammo and health, may seem archaic, I personally did not mind this most of the time. All of this ties into the achievement list, which really stands out to me. It may come off as generic with all the perk achievements, but it's a list that encouraged me to play the game differently, which are some of my favorite types. I had to change up my playstyle to accommodate for the uber difficulty and to unlock as many perks as I could in one go. It was tough at times, but never to the point that I grew overly frustrated. It was a fair challenge that was rewarding upon completion. That's all for the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts on Wolfenstein: The New Order? I feel like this is one of the more underrated games of the last generation, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. See you guys next time.